Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of the Business of Fun podcast. I am your host, Dave Wakeman. My guest today is Kris Rudeegraap from Sendoso. We are talking about gifting, but before I tell you about the conversation I had with Kris, let me remind you to check out my website. It's www.davewakeman.com, and you can visit, or you can get the Talking Tickets newsletter. You don't have to visit. There's a website and all, but whatever. TalkingTickets.substack.com, and there's a Slack channel for us that the link is in the show notes. So check those things out. Kris Rudeegraap from Sendoso. We were talking about gifting. We talked about touch point marketing, which has been a little bit of a theme the last couple of weeks. The customer journey, using tech and automation to help make some of these minor touch points work. We talked about opening conversations using gifts. We talked about what a good gift is. We talked about unboxing, and some of the season ticket holder tailgate type things. We talked about an idea he called attention minutes, which I thought was pretty cool. Field marketing, scale, things you could do, with super VIPs, just the ways you can make gifting much more interesting. We have a common friend, a colleague. So I think if you listen till the very end, there's going to be a special giveaway at the end. So check this conversation with Kris Rudeegraap out on the Business of Fun podcast. All right, I want to welcome Kris Rudeegraap to the Business of Fun podcast. Kris, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Yeah, man, this is great. We're going to talk about gifting today, and we were having a lot of fun talking about gifting even before we started. So to lead into this, just tell people a little bit about what you're working on, so they have an idea how we can set the stage.
Yeah, so I started a company called Sendoso 10 years ago. Sendoso is the leading gifting and direct mail platform around the world. So we offer a software platform that allows you to set up automations, run reports, set up integrations. We have global warehouses and global marketplaces of gifting options, and then we make it easy. You could send, a super expensive bottle of wine. You could send 10,000 Yeti mugs with your logo on it, or you could send a baby onesie with your favorite sports team. Anything and everything to make that impactful impression on a prospective client or one of your clients or a partner.
Yeah. So knowing that we have some similar experiences and have known similar people in the area of gifting, and you have a lot, the gifting is all your business. Yeah. What are some of the things that make an impactful gift? Because I as I mentioned before we started recording, sometimes the gifts kind of can seem rote and a little bit flat and not thoughtful. So how do you tell people to make a good gift? What makes a good gift, Kris?
So I think about it in three ways, and these are three personalized ways to make a gift better. And I think it all starts with personalization, but you could personalize it to the individual. So I might know that you have a dog and I might send you a dog toy because I see a dog in the background, or a dog barked. And so those types of things will be a personal gift to you, the individual. Or I might personalize it to the event. Like maybe there's a executive golf event, and I'm sending some personalized golf balls to you in advance of that event to get you excited to attend and get you to RSVP. So that is more personalized to the event. The other thing is more of a personalized to the offer or the solution you're trying to provide, with some kind of play on words. For example, I might send you a bottle of wine with a combo code lock on it and said, hey, are you trying to unlock new IT spend? Follow up with me and we can chat and I'll give you the combo code to unlock it. This would be if you're an IT provider trying to get into a new book of business. So each of those ways personalize the gift so it's not just generic.
Yeah. And so I know that, when I was introducing this, you can really offer up a gift at any point in the relationship.
Correct.
And one of the things that I try to tell people to do is use gifts, or not even just gifts, just be more thoughtful in opening the relationship.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of your experiences doing that? Because I know that I found that area interesting, and I'll give you an example that I thought was amazing. was a few years back, the Miami Marlins.
Yep.
They were trying to increase their premium sales, and they would
Yep.
have launch events, and they do sprints, just like Silicon
Yeah.
Valley kind of thing. And so for 2 weeks they'd focus on attorneys,
Yep.
or 2 weeks on doctors. And so depending on how important this potential new partner was, this new client, new ticket buyer, they would send maybe a baseball,
Yeah.
a bat. They even had a case where they sent a base and they said, "I hope to get to first base with you."
I love
So,
that.
yeah, it was great. So I'm curious from your point of view, like working with people all over the place,
Yeah.
like when you're trying to open doors, like what are some of the things that people use, A, creative things, but B, like, that make these moments impactful? Because we all get like, as much as they tell us mail is dead, physical mail, my mailbox is always full, but a lot of times I just ignore it.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things that come in here. One is, the personalization piece of what the item is. Two, along with the gift, you have to be thoughtful about what's coming before and after. So you might send an email before saying, "Hey, check your mailbox in a few days. I just sent you something." So now you're kind of giving them a little teaser and warming them up, and there's a little bit of like FOMO excitement. Then after the gift arrives, sending them a little call saying, "Hey, how'd you like it?" So I think that's one thing to think about is the before and after the gift. It's also like, how do you think about the once they receive the gift, what other gifts might go along with it? Maybe there's a 1-2 punch where you're sending like a cool custom wine glass set, and then like maybe a month later sending a bottle of wine. And so
Mhm.
there's a bit of kind of combined multi-step gifting. Um, and so I think there's just a lot of thoughtfulness that can go in. Now, one of the cool things that we have in our technology platform is this AI data layer. And so we'll actually go out and know that Kris likes golf, Kris lives in San Francisco, Kris has a kid, Kris drives a Tesla, Kris likes hiking. And so that can allow you to further customize it even one step further, because you can customize it to the individual based on this AI data set we have.
Oh, well, I think that's really great, because one of the things that I know from teaching a brand management class and like doing the research that's necessary to teach this damn class is about touch points and the
Yeah.
importance of touch points. And what the lesson I'm always attempting to impart on people is uh, the magic of that relationship starts earlier. Those touch points begin sooner than you imagine, and they stretch out
Yep.
further than you think they do. But the
Yeah.
little stuff is the most important things. How do you apply that to gifting? Like
Yeah.
how does it, because it's you thought you just explained like it's got to be thoughtful from start,
Correct.
and then before and after. How do you get that across? Because that's so often difficult for people to envision.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you just hit on is, how do you think about the buyer to customer journey and holistically map it out? Go into some visual mapping software and say, "Hey, week one, this is going to happen. Week 8, week 52, after they become a customer, week 70, week 300, year 4," and try to visualize what each of those could be. Now, some will be emails, some will be live events, some will be gifts,
Hmm.
but holistically think of that strategy. I think that's number one, because some people just like wake up today and be like, "Okay, I just need to like make some outreach. I'm just gonna like randomly do something today," versus like a systematic strategy that you can then repeat indefinitely. So I think that's one thing. Two is, I think you got to invest in technology and automation to make it more frictionless to execute on. And I think that everyone likes the idea of sending gifts, but if you're manually doing this and you're like, "Okay, I got to send 20 bases or baseballs today," uh, it's gonna be more painful for me to then go and have to like ship it out or work with a provider that maybe doesn't have the custom kit boxes ready. And so if you can prepare yourself by setting up a technology part that can automate it for you, it makes it that much more likely to happen than you hoping that you actually go and pack the box and ship it out.
Yeah, it can become very burdensome. Now,
Correct.
one thing I'm curious about too, because like you talked about the customer journey, you talked about automating, you've talked about versus manual, you kind of given me a lot to think about so far. One thing I want to know though is about the creativity of the gifting, right? Like, just kind of the variety. How many like, like just in general, like if we take the platform that we're talking
Yeah.
about out of it, or and then add it back in, but like how much creativity should people be putting into this? And, like, what are some of the interesting ways? Because I know the people you worked with kind of cover everything.
Yeah.
What are some of the creative ways that you've seen people,
Yeah.
use GIFs to, like, because we're talking about the sales process from start to finish, the entire customer journey, and applicable in different ways. And one of the things that I find to be problematic is, like, people just do things by rote. And this is like, and so I'm curious about some of the creativity that goes into this, because I think you could do, like, freaking amazing things.
Totally. So I think the creativity and gifting can also come in the unboxing experience in itself. So a couple of examples here. We had one sports company that wanted to invite some corporate sponsors to an event. Rather than just sending them an email and saying, hey, you should show up, they created this custom box that when you opened it, a video played from one of their players. In addition to that, there in the box was what looked like a custom ticket to come show up. There was baseball, there was Cracker Jacks, and there was a few other items in it. So that unboxing experience was a wow factor in that the video played. There is another sports example where this was for some season ticket holders, some of the top season ticket holders. There was a tailgating kit that was sent out. And so this was like, hey, come tailgate before the game, and here's a few things to enjoy during your tailgate. And that was an unboxed experience that was creative and unique. So I think you can think about that as the form factor. I also saw another sports company. They sent out this kind of creative, custom made that we made for them coloring book. And it was like a play for the family, and it was custom made just for these season ticket holders. But it was, again, a creative way. And in it was just some reminders to come to games, but it was just a unique way than just a normal newsletter. We've even seen more interactive mailers where it's like, a custom made Mad Libs or a crossword puzzle. Some of these things are just kind of cheeky, but it's like, hey, this is different. Oh, this is cool. It's something for me to do and use and think differently about. It's a bit of pattern disrupt. How do you be different? And I think that's what creativity is.
Yeah. Oh, describing it as a pattern disruption, I think, is excellent, because that's your challenge, right? Because really, gifting is an aspect of your marketing and your branding, because everything counts in marketing and branding. And so pattern disruption, interruption, like getting people just to pay attention to you, because there's thousands of demands on people's attention every day.
Correct.
And, like, you are fighting for just somebody to care at all.
100%. Yeah. We're actually releasing a study too on what we're calling like attention minutes, and trying to help people understand and help marketers understand that different channels and different tactics will have different attention minutes. So, like, if I send you an email and you just look at the subject and click through it, that's like 13 seconds of your attention. But if I send you a really interesting box that you unbox it, you read it, you look through it, you use it, that might be 30 minutes of your attention. If you see an ad, maybe that's 15 seconds. An in-person event, now that's hours of your attention. And so there's some costs compared to these channels, but you've got to think about how do you grab someone's attention, and how many, how do you allocate like attention minutes to thinking about their time.
This attention minutes thing is excellent, and I'm going to use some examples, because what happens is my wife, she runs this huge business, and nobody can give her a gift. Like, the woman has everything. So they figured out that the best way to do something nice for her is to do something nice for me.
I love that.
So when the attention minutes, I'm going to give you two examples that are amazing. So one of the salespeople bought me a pair of Red Wing boots.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, and every time I put them on and I think about them, I'm like, man, these boots are amazing. And I say to Catherine, like, Catherine's boots are amazing. And, like, how many attention minutes is that pair of boots?
Exactly.
That is, like, unbelievable. Yeah. I never thought about it that way until you said it. And then the other one that was really stood out was somebody had sent me a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of Old Rip Van Winkle. And every time I'm like,
yum.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is amazing. And but when you put it in the context of, which is bring it back to like, oh, send me something really fancy, it'll be amazing. Back to what's helpful for people is you have to think about it from the standpoint of customer acquisition cost.
Correct.
So if the pair of shoes probably $300.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, what is the likelihood you're going to get that meeting?
Yeah.
With my wife now?
I know,
right?
exactly.
At her business, what is the likelihood that if you sent somebody like a really nice bottle of whiskey, and they drink whiskey, that they're going to take the time to call you, like to return your call?
Yeah.
And how much is that worth, right now? And so, do people buy? The question is, do people understand that? Like, is that a harder sell for people? Because I think and this is where it comes in for me, is we spend so much time trying to quantify and qualify every touch point.
Yep.
But something like this is just cuts right to the chase and gets right to the bottom line. So like, how much is your time and your energy and your attention worth when you short circuit all that? Because something with like huge attention cuts right through.
Exactly. The way that I think about it, some of the most forward-thinking, innovative marketers know this. They know that brand and advocacy lasts for a lifetime, and they're trying to invest in that early. And they think about that, and that's why they're doing gifting. And they know it works. They can do the math. $1 spent equals, $100 in revenue, or some math like that. I think that we're also seeing this shift too, where there's a fair amount of digital saturation going on where, maybe 5-10 years ago, you were excited to get an email. And so marketers were willing to push way more money behind email and ads. And now with those channels becoming a bit more saturated and there's so much noise, they're thinking, well, what other channels can I use? And that's where gifting and direct mail come in and are able to offer like a differentiated experience. So, I think that the time is pendulum has shifted.
Yeah, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I think it's probably coming through for people is like how like fascinated I am by this and how interesting, well, how useful and how great I think it is I think probably better. But you talked about like sending people's personalized gift, and it could be a specific to the event, before or after. But I know also you do stuff that like they can use during.
Yes.
And when you use stuff that's like you're using during the event, that plus combine it with the attention minutes, like, have you seen a big impact on that for people? I'm guessing, but
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think again, it creates this experience, and I think that a lot of marketers dream of this like experiential marketing, where it's like you're creating these memorable experiences that people will brag to their friends about, people will remember. And so how do you do that? And part of that is the physical, tangible gifts that could play, like you said, before, during, after, and that just makes that event more memorable. Also, it could be way after. It could be like maybe you went to a whiskey tasting event for some executives that were looking to become corporate sponsors, and you showed up, and maybe they gave you some custom whiskey glasses. And then maybe it's like a month later, they sent you a nice bottle of whiskey following up saying, hey, I'm sure you love this one here. Let's give you another one. You probably are empty now. And so things like that just like continue to keep this like top of mind awareness and build on this like multi-month, multi-year, brainstorm of memories.
Yeah, it's to me, I think there's too much attention that's put on like the huge mass brand building things, right? And I am as big an advocate of you need to do the long and the short, right? Which is the long is brand building and the short is sales activation. But this stuff is like, it doesn't take the place of brand building by any stretch of the imagination. But I would assume, and I'll be curious about from your perspective, how it lessens the cost of keeping customers inside your organization. Like once you gain the customer, you're not having to constantly reacquire them. Or is that not, or am I wrong in that assessment?
No, you're 100% right. And I think that, client gifting is a great strategy to continue to engage that relationship, build more advocacy, and kind of continue to surprise and delight them, because you continue to learn more and more about their interests, their likes, and you can continue to use that in your gifting strategy. Or you can just another example, recently for the Super Bowl, one of our larger gaming clients, they were hosting a special VIP event. They were chartering folks in on flights, and on their seats were custom branded Bose headphones. Now, this was just like a nice gesture where, you're showing up to a flight and you got some nice headphones. Boom. That's just one more thing to make that experience different and top notch. And again, the lifetime value of that customer could be, 10,000 times more than the cost of those Bose headphones. But the likelihood that they're going to continue to invest in that relationship is so much more, because you're being thoughtful, and you're keeping yourself top of mind.
Yeah, let me ask you a question then, and this may be off topic a little bit, but I'm not sure if it is or not, but because I think there's probably a correlation between what we're talking about and what's going on, which is like you talked about the Bose headphones, in-person things. When you're dealing with kind of variables, such as, like you don't necessarily know exactly what the right personalized gift for someone is, how do you handle that? And let me give you an example, which I thought like is great, because we talked about attention minutes. We talked about kind of like lengthening the relationship. Yeah. My wife was just in London a couple weeks ago, and I think you mentioned the dog because you heard Penny the bulldog scampering around and barking behind me, and they gave her a bulldog. Cool. Stuffed animal, right? Yeah. Like, they were like, somebody was talking to her and they gave her a bulldog stuffed animal. Yeah. When you're dealing with people, are you able to get people to give them that flexibility where it's like they can like meet? Okay, that's great. Yeah. Cause I think that's like super impactful.
Yeah. So our platform has, hundreds of thousands of gift options, if not millions now, that are super personalized down. So we also piggyback on Amazon's infrastructure, but instead of sending through Amazon, it sends to our nearest warehouse. We unbox it, rebox it with a handwritten note, custom boxing, and ship it out. So we can piggyback on their 500 million SKUs, but the unboxing experience becomes hyper personalized, like you went and found that at a boutique store and mailed it yourself. So I think that's critical to that piece as well. And then we keep track of all these interests. So like if that bulldog example, if that sales rep leaves and then a new sales rep comes in, or a new client success manager comes in 6 months later, you don't want that memory forgotten about. You want to keep track of that. So we become this like system of interest. We also have some unique technology where we're able to go out and find third-party data that maybe the person is talking about on social media and capture that. Or we allow our customers to opt in first-party data where maybe a sales rep's having a phone call and on that call they mention a dog. And then we're able to capture that and use that in our interest graph to where now we can give a gift recommendation just off of call transcripts too. Yeah. And so all these things bring together this like easier experience for sales reps or client success reps to be able to engage those corporate clients or those season ticket holders in new and unique ways, with technology and AI and data making it that much easier.
Yeah. Okay. And it's good you brought up like the season ticket holders. And I know before we started recording, we talked about opening doors with sponsors. And one of the cool things, the example I used was, I don't know if I talked about it here yet, because I'm confused between when we were recording and when we weren't. But I was telling you the example of the Miami Marlins and their sales sprints for their premium seating. Yeah. And how they would customize the thing. Every 2 week sprint might be doctors, lawyers, whomever. Yeah. I'm curious about the scale, because like one of the things that you do well when helping people is like new demand generation. Yes. And I'm curious about the scale of this, and not less so. I know that you can scale up and scale down technology wise, but as a best practice, because again, like with the sales process, I think people sometimes get confused, like more is better. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily buy that. I just like going, you need to be very specific about things. What do you see, and especially when it comes to gifts? Because again, I think you run the risk of being rote if you're not, and just too much the same if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think it goes back to thinking about that perfect buyer's experience and where do you want to drip in gifts versus emails versus phone calls versus in-person experiences. So coming up with that so you don't go rogue and just send too many things out, I think is critical to think about. I think the scale piece though is important to be able to then do this at scale so that when you do want to send out, 10,000, 100,000, 5,000, five, that you can do that with a click of a button versus, having maybe a partner or doing it in-house where you just lag behind you or you just stop like halfway through your list because
Yep.
you got to leave the office and you never come back to it. And so I think that's one of the problems I see with people trying to manually do gifting is that there's just a lot of operational complexities, and so they're able to knock out a handful of them, and then they just get overwhelmed or they just get too busy,
Hmm.
and then the scale breaks.
Yeah. And in that context, right, I want to know, I'll frame it, I'll change the way it goes. With a lot of times when you're doing outreach, cold, warm, medium, whatever, however it comes, right? Um, the success rate is pretty low, right? Like people come to me sometimes and they're like going, "Oh man, it's great. Our email open rate is 1%." And I'm like going,
Yeah,
"That's great."
yeah,
Or
I know.
like they'll like going, "I'll make 100 phone calls to get one answer." And I was
Yeah.
going, "God, that's a freaking waste of time." um, when you're using gifting, what does the success rate look for a lot of the people you're working with? Like how, like, because even for something like I'll tell people like the open rate on my newsletter that I send out to like people is 45% might be low.
Yeah.
It's like, so what's the success rate when you're using gifting, and how much of an improvement do you get?
Yeah, so we have a couple ways to think about it. One is we have pure digital gifts. These are digital
Hmm.
gift cards or digital experiences. Those are really easy to track from the digital perspective. We see upwards of, 60, 70% engagement and response rates
Hmm.
to digital gifts, which is really high. Now, surprise and delight gifts, I would argue that a FedEx box shows up to your door tomorrow, you're going to have a 100% open rate. Now, response rate might be less. I would, I can't imagine anyone taking a FedEx box that's unopened and just putting it in the trash. So you're at least going to get some minutes in the attention
Yeah.
minutes there where you're looking at it. Now, are you going to respond? Maybe not, but you've at least grabbed some top of mind awareness to where if you then follow that up with, thoughtful outreach, it could connect the dots to create a conversation. And I
Yeah.
think at a lot of these times, you're just trying to spark a conversation. It also helps if you're following up with a cold call or a cold email where you reference that and it makes it
Hmm.
feel a little warmer. But we've seen that you can improve, your gifting response rates by coupling that with a call or email after, and then also you could put in some more interactivity into the gift too. Hey, here's a QR code, scan this to get XYZ, or here's a short URL, go register for
Hmm.
XYZ. So you're trying to drive that much more of kind of like a secondary gift or action item with it.
Yeah. I, you already answered this, but I'm going to go ahead and reinforce it because I think
Yeah.
it matters. And what it is a formula that I share with pretty regularly, which is that A plus B is greater than 2A or 2B. And what you're saying is like going, if you combine the gift with like, a touch point here and a touch point there, it's way better than just, you know,
Exactly. And we
yeah.
did a study last year across, I think it was like 400 million activities with his marketing attribution partner, and for companies that were just doing digital only, so email outreach, versus companies that were doing digital plus physical, so gifting and direct mail combined, saw 4 to 9 times more response rates. And so I think that goes to show for people that are just kind of locked in this digital only strategy that, you might be able to, 9x your response rates, which could be, tens of millions, hundreds of millions in unlocked revenue.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but
Yeah,
people just sort of like, again, I think it's just like you end up following what or what, it's not even what everybody else is doing, it's what you think everybody else is doing. And I
correct.
think that's the issue. Um, So let me see if I have this everything straight, and then you can tell me if I've missed anything here.
Yeah.
The key to gifting, right, is first to be thoughtful. You
Yeah.
know, you can't, don't just mail it in because it's a missed opportunity if you mail it in. Um, touch point gifts are a great way to increase the impact of your touch points.
Correct.
And that, like, the most important thing probably to focus on for a lot of people is attention minutes.
Yes.
Because, and that well, I guess the fourth big thing would be that there's a lot of tools and flexibility that you can that the internets and automation and AI and everything has created for us. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you nailed it. Those are great summary
Um,
takeaways.
Amazing, amazing. And I think we talked about it before. And if I'm wrong, then I can delete this. I never said it. But we're going to offer people a gift today.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, so between Dave and Kris got together, and we're going to send you anybody who sends Kris an email or Dave an email, we'll send you a book.
Yeah.
We have like 50 of them we can give away.
Yeah.
And it's a gift called Giftology. It's a guy called John Rulin wrote the book. We both knew John. I was introduced to John by a guy called Troy Kirby, who was like the OG sports business podcaster. The Giftology book is great. I'm going to plug it in the newsletter and everything. So I wanted to plug that before we got there. But Kris, if I nailed everything in a summary, did I miss anything that you wanted to make sure you bring across to people?
No, I think that was perfect. And I think to sum it all up, I think creativity is this new secret weapon, and gifting is a perfect way to execute on creative programs that grab the attention of your prospective clients or your current clients. And so, never a better time to get more creative and kick off a gifting program than today.
Yeah. And Kris, where can people find you on the internet? That's a very important thing. I kind of got out of order here.
Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn, message me there. You can find me at Kris at Sendoso.com, or check out Sendoso.com if you're curious on what we do and how to operationalize and scale your gifting programs.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for doing this. I enjoyed it. I love the
Yeah.
gifting idea.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Don't miss out on the Giftology giveaway. You send me or Kris an email. I'm at dave@davewakeman.com. Make sure you get a copy of the book. Check out my website. It's davewakeman.com. Get the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com. And check out the show notes for the Slack channel. Talking Tickets. There's over 400 people there now. What an amazing gift that is. Talking Tickets has been dominated by the Live Nation trial right now, but I've looked at the structural issues in ticketing. We got all kinds of great stuff there, so don't sleep on that. You've made it this far into the podcast, so thank you. I know you love me. Make sure you rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, and make sure to share it with somebody who would love to learn about gifting. It helps me grow the podcast. It helps me continue to get great guests, and a little bit of positive feedback never hurt anyone. As I like to say at the end of these things, I thank you so much for being here. I couldn't do it without you. Until next time, take it easy. I'll see you soon.